कार्टर फिर भी ये गलत है।
अच्छा क्यों?
लोग सुनेंगे तो।
और बता क्या हुआ? नहीं यहाँ
What if one small wish could make someone love you completely, but the love that arrives is consuming, unstable, and impossible to undo? Would you break it, or would you stay? The movie begins with Bear rehearsing. He practices a heartfelt confession for Nikki, the woman he has quietly loved for years. He tells a friend how she was the only one kind to him when he moved to town, sitting with him in silence after his grandmother passed. His friend winces. It is too sappy Nikki would run. Instead, he suggests Bear be playful, even tease her and bring up her old-school nickname, Freaky Nikki. Bear is uneasy but listens. More importantly, his friend says not to confess at trivia night, their weekly group gathering at the bar. That would turn a fun tradition into an awkward spectacle. Bear agrees to wait and do it right. Then Bear's cat Sandy passes away. He finds her still and alone. The loss stings more than he expected. At work, Nikki tells Bear she is putting in her 2 weeks' notice to focus on writing. She says she is not feeling love, and she needs to feel love to bring her story to life. Bear decides that tonight at trivia, he will finally tell her everything. But moments later, he drops his crystal necklace down a drain. He hurries to a crystal shop to replace it. The shopkeeper shows him stones for calmness, love, and good energy. Then she mentions the one-wish willow, a crystal sold as a single-wish collectible. Some people never open it, but the ones who do come back to complain. Bear buys one. Trivia night arrives. Bear keeps trying to tell Nikki something important, but friends keep interrupting. A mention of a gun in the break room safe derails him completely. The group toasts to Sandy before the questions begin. After trivia, the group wants to hit a second bar for karaoke. Nikki is exhausted and just wants to go home. Bear offers to take her. Walking home, they talk about her quitting and the love story she wants to write. Bear mentions he got her something. They circle around everything they are not saying. They discuss Sarah's obvious crush on Bear. Bear tries to confess his feelings but loses his nerve. In a clumsy attempt at the playful teasing his friend suggested, he calls her Freaky Nikki. Nikki flinches. She has always hated that name. Bear apologizes, then asks the real question, does she like him? Nikki pauses and says they are good friends. That is all. Bear walks home alone. He opens the one-wish willow and reads the label, one wish only. He closes his eyes and wishes that Nikki Freeman would love him more than anyone in the world. But then Nikki's voice comes from behind him. Bear panics and shoves the crystal away. He tells her he left her gift at home. The moment passes and they say goodnight. Nikki stands outside, acting strange. She invites Bear inside, using her cat as an excuse, but something is clearly wrong with her. Bear notices she is not sober. She gets into his car uninvited and begs him to take her to his place. He resists, but she drops the real reason. Her father is dying. She took one step inside her own house and could not face it. Therefore, Bear gives in and drives her home. They arrive at Bear's apartment, his late grandmother's place. Nikki calms down. She tells him the room smells like him and she likes it there. Bear offers her water and says good night, but she asks him to sleep beside her, pleading she will spiral if left alone. He reluctantly agrees. They lie together while music plays. The moment feels tender until Nikki suddenly kisses Bear. Then she panics, pulling away and apologizing repeatedly. She claims she saw something, then insists it was a panic attack. She says she is just lost. Bear is shaken but stays kind. Later, she asks him to lay with her again. But the mood has shifted and Bear hesitates. Something about a memorial in the room unsettles Bear. Nikki does not seem to understand why it bothers him. The next day at work, Bear pulls Ian aside and describes the bizarre night. He says Nikki kept snapping between happy and terrified, kissing him then crying. Ian asks if she was using substances again. Later, Nikki finds Bear and apologizes. She admits she was intoxicated and says her father's illness made her a mess. She insists Bear did nothing wrong. Then she tells him she knows he has feelings for her. She asks directly, and Bear admits he does. He says it started around Christmas and grew over time. They share a gentle moment, joking about Bear becoming a food critic. But when he asks about her father, she shuts the conversation down. Then Ian calls with disturbing news. He checked into Nikki's story. Her father does not have cancer. He is healthy and working every day. The hospital she mentioned has no record of him. Ian also reveals that Nikki recently told Sarah she only sees Bear as a little brother. Ian warns Bear that Nikki has suddenly become infatuated with him, and something is very wrong. Bear hangs up, shaken. Nikki appears holding a gift, a tiger's eye stone that belonged to her mother. She says it will give him confidence. Bear takes it, but the warmth between them now carries a shadow of doubt. Nikki tells Bear she loves him more than anyone in the world, so much she couldn't live without him. The words sound sweet, but the intensity is already past normal. Bear asks a careful question. Does her father really have cancer? The answer is no. Her father is not sick. This is the first clear sign that Nikki has been building her story on a lie, and Bear is starting to notice. Bear wakes in the middle of the night. Nikki is sitting in the dark watching him sleep, wearing his sweater. She says she doesn't like her dreams and feels Bear doesn't love her as much as she loves him. Bear tries to calm her, but Nikki spirals, asking why he doesn't love her. The night turns strange and frightening. The next morning, Bear discovers Nikki cut his hair while he slept. He handles it gently, telling her they should not do that again. Nikki apologizes and blames a bad dream. Bear, desperate for peace, asks her to promise no more strange behavior, no more watching him sleep. She promises. They say they are good. Bear leaves for work and encourages Nikki to enjoy her day off at his place. At work, Sarah pulls Bear aside. She finds the sudden relationship suspicious and reminds him that Nikki had already told people she wanted to keep things casual. Sarah is worried Bear will get hurt, but Bear brushes it off. Then something disturbs the whole workplace. A strange note appears, tied to an inside joke between Bear and Nikki involving a cat. Bear's reaction unsettles everyone around him. He leaves and catches a ride home with his neighbor, Baron. In the car, Baron confronts Bear hard. He lists the red flags. Nikki lied about cancer, lied about her father, was showing signs of a breakdown, and now she is sleeping over every night. Baron says it looks like Bear is taking advantage of a vulnerable person. Bear fires back that Nikki is the one who will not leave him alone. Baron proposes a test. If the relationship is healthy, Nikki should have no problem with Bear going to a boys' night without her. Bear agrees and goes home to tell Nikki he is spending the evening with Ian. Nikki is visibly upset but says okay. Alone, Bear calls the company behind the wish, One Wish Willow. He asks if the wish can be altered or canceled. The operator says no to both. Bear asks if Nikki's love is even real. The operator gives a chilling answer. Just because Bear chose this for her does not make the love less real. The wish, the operator explains, lasts as long as Bear lives. Only his death would end it. Therefore, the operator says, Bear has a moral obligation to stay. Then comes the strangest moment of all. The operator asks Bear if he would like to speak to Nikki, as if she is right there with them. Bear comes home to find Nikki on the floor, sick and confused. She insists she ate a bad bug. Bear gently guides her to the shower and promises to clean up the mess himself. But a chilling detail surfaces. Bear asks if Nikki cooked the cat. Something deeply wrong is hiding behind her illness, and Bear knows it. Bear tries to escape for the evening. Ian has invited him to a boys' night. Nikki immediately wants to come along, but when Nikki learns that Sarah will be there too, she erupts. She accuses Bear of choosing Sarah over her for even 3 hours. The jealousy is consuming her. At the party, a drinking game gets underway. Nikki switches seats to sit beside Bear and clings to him tightly. Everyone notices the intensity. Then Nikki reads aloud from a new book she is writing. The passage is deeply disturbing, involving siblings in a twisted romance. The room goes silent and uncomfortable. What follows is worse. Nikki declares that no one alive will ever understand the strength of her love for Bear. She says everyone in the room will pass away without ever feeling a connection like theirs. The guests stare. Nikki laughs and calls it a joke. Then she drops the smile and says plainly that she is not joking at all. Minutes later, Nikki collapses. The guests panic and beg Bear to get her to a hospital. The evening has spiraled completely out of control. After the chaos, Bear confronts Nikki. He says she is scaring everyone. Nikki blames Sarah and admits she gets nervous, but Bear is exhausted. Nikki grabs him and asks over and over whether he even likes her. She calls herself his freaky Nikki. The desperation in her voice is heartbreaking and frightening at once. Bear tries to create a boundary. He asks Nikki to go home for one night so they can take some space. She refuses completely. Space is the one thing she cannot tolerate. Nikki promises she can be normal. She repeats that she can be Nikki, whatever that means to Bear. But the more she insists, the more it sounds like she is disappearing into someone else entirely. Then Nikki tells Bear she loves him in every reality. It is a raw, strange confession that stops him cold, but Nikki's intensity tips into something terrifying. Bear pulls away and says he will sleep at Ian's house. Nikki does not let go easily. As Bear tries to leave, Nikki describes in calm detail what it feels like to pass away. She says the body goes cold and quiet, and then there is nothing. She presents it like a choice for Bear to prevent. Then she offers a simpler option. Bear could just stay, and he does. Later that night, Nikki makes a devastating plea. She begs Bear to end her life, whispering so no one else wakes up. She repeats it again and again. She asks what would be so bad about being with her. She has never truly been with Bear, not the real her. The pain beneath her obsession is finally visible. Bear steps outside with Ian to breathe. Ian reveals something Nikki has kept hidden. Her father is dying, and the two of them have grown close again recently. The grief explains part of her spiral, though not all of it. Ian warns Bear that Nikki is leaning on him too heavily. She needs professional help, not just a boyfriend. Bear is not so sure she is taking advantage of him, but the concern lands. Then Bear mentions a letter he has received from Luther. His last chance, he calls it. He wants to open it together with Ian. A new thread is pulling tight, and Nikki's storm is far from over. So here is the question. Is Nikki's love real, created by a wish, or born from something far darker, and does Bear owe her his life because of it? Tell us in the comments what you would do if one wish changed everything.